My name is Olivia. I'm 32 years old. In my 7 years as a daughter-in-law in the US, the only thing I've truly learned is that not all kitchens are just for cooking. Some kitchens are used to cook conspiracies. The house I live in is nearly 4,000 square feet, located in an affluent suburb of Connecticut. To outsiders, everyone describes my in-laws as successful, refined, and classy. They aren't wrong. My mother-in-law, Victoria, always appears with a gentle smile, impeccable attire, and conversation so polished that neighbors praise her as the perfect lady. But that's what happens outside the front door. Once that heavy oak door closes, when it's just family, her voice changes and her eyes change right along with it. My husband, Ethan, is American, kind, quiet, and weak in the face of his mother. My sister-in-law, Chloe, is a few years younger than me, beautiful, trendy, and always smells of expensive perfume. She smiles often and is fun to talk to, but I always have the feeling that every word she says has a hidden secondary meaning, like a tiny knife that slices your heart just by glancing past it. In that house, the only person I feel is completely genuine and never lies is Rex, the large German shepherd with tan and brown fur, whose eyes are so deep they make me think, if he could talk, he'd be able to tell every story that's ever happened here. The silent witness. Everything started with things that seemed small. For the past few weeks, every time I step into the kitchen, Rex has a strange reaction. Normally, he just lies in the corner near the door, occasionally lifting his head to look at me, waiting for a treat. But lately, as soon as I open the fridge or step near the stove area, he jumps up, paces back and forth, his ears perked up. His eyes stare intently at one spot, the cabinet corner right next to the refrigerator. One day, as I was chopping vegetables, he stood right in front of me, blocking me from the rest of the counter. I had to move aside, and he followed, his eyelids twitching. I was annoyed but still laughed. "What's up, Rex? Are you hungry?" He didn't even look at me, only past my shoulder, as if someone were standing there. I turned around. There was nothing but the gleaming stainless steel fridge. At the time, I simply thought, maybe he hears a mouse or some insect. I didn't know that, in fact, he was seeing more than I thought. The olive oil incident. One morning, I woke up early to prepare breakfast. Victoria insists the house eat by the book, so every morning there's eggs, toast, fruit, and machine-brewed coffee. I was used to the routine. Start the coffee maker, put the bread in the toaster, rinse the berries, pour milk into glasses. That day, as I pulled open the refrigerator door and bent down to grab the egg carton, I heard a loud clatter behind me. The sound of breaking glass, oil splattering across the cold stone floor. I spun around, startled. The entire bottle of the expensive Italian olive oil, the one Victoria insisted on buying from a boutique store, lay shattered on the floor, the oil streaming out in a long, shimmering slick. Chloe stood nearby, still holding a dishcloth, her eyes wide. "Oh my God, Olivia, what happened? How could you be so clumsy?" I hadn't even processed what occurred. I was standing at least 2 steps away from the oil. I still had the unopened egg carton in my hands. I hadn't touched the bottle. "What are you talking about? I didn't go near that area," I stammered. Chloe shrugged, sighing with a dramatic sense of pity for me. "You must have turned around too quickly and knocked it. Let me clean it up before Mom comes down." She said that and quickly knelt down, cleaning the oil with great urgency. But I clearly saw, as she bent down, a flash of irritation in her eyes. Just then, Victoria walked down from upstairs, adjusting her pearl necklace as she descended. "What's going on? What was that loud crash?" Her voice quickly turned cold when she saw the slick of oil and the shards of glass. Chloe rushed to speak. "Mom, it's nothing. Just the olive oil bottle fell. Olivia must have spun around too fast and knocked it." She spoke without looking at me, and I stood frozen, paralyzed. Victoria turned to me, her eyes colder than the stone countertop. "Olivia, the items in this house are not cheap. Please try to be more careful, dear." I opened my mouth. I didn't touch the olive oil." Chloe immediately interjected, her voice sickly sweet. "Oh, Mom, everyone makes mistakes. She was probably just rushing to prepare breakfast for the whole family and wasn't paying attention." It sounded like she was defending me, but every word felt like it was pressing the blame onto my back. I looked toward the corner of the kitchen. Rex was standing there, his eyes wide, looking from one person to the next, the fur on the back of his neck slightly raised. A faint, low growl rumbled from his throat. The subtle digs. That evening, during dinner, Victoria recounted the story of the olive oil as a harmless anecdote, but added a few choice comments. When a woman is in the kitchen, responsibility and avoiding damage are important. This is America, but you should still remember, a wife who cares for the home and maintains the kitchen is the one who earns respect. No one said it to my face, but everyone understood who she was targeting. I felt a flush creeping up my neck, but I forced a smile, lifting my glass of water to hide my stinging eyes. Ethan, sitting opposite me, didn't say a word. Rex lay under the table, his head resting on his paws, his eyes fixed on me. I had a feeling he understood everything. From that day on, incidents of dropping things, messing up the counter, leaving a knife out, and forgetting to close the spice jar lids started occurring more frequently. The strange thing was, most of them happened when I wasn't even in the kitchen. But when they were discovered, the comments were always the same. Did Olivia use this and forget to close it? She must have been in a hurry to leave the knife out. Maybe she dropped it and didn't notice. It was repeated constantly, insidiously. From being a little clumsy, I began to become the established clumsy daughter-in-law. Every time this happened, Rex reacted. He would bark, run around the area, and stare intensely at Chloe or Victoria, as if desperately trying to say something he couldn't. Many times, I stroked his head and sighed. I don't know what's going on either, Rex. One evening, I walked into the kitchen to find Victoria staring directly at the cabinets, her eyes sharp as knives. Olivia, do you believe the kitchen is a place that requires a sense of responsibility? She asked, her voice calm. I froze. Yes, ma'am, I do. Good, because lately I've noticed too many strange things happening in this kitchen. First the oil, then the glassware, then the spilled spices. She paused, looking me up and down. I just hope no one turns this kitchen into a chaotic mess. At that moment, Rex moved closer, standing right by my feet, as if trying to shield me from her gaze. The camera idea. That evening, after finishing the dishes, I sat on the floor, leaning against the cabinets. Rex came and lay next to me, his head resting on my lap. I spoke softly as if to myself. What is really happening? Are they setting me up? Is everything bad supposed to be blamed on me? Rex just breathed steadily, but his eyes were intensely focused. He suddenly stood up, walked to the corner near the fridge, where the less-used spice jars were. He sniffed around for a while, then turned back to look at me. The idea of a hidden camera flashed into my mind. I do my nails in the morning and freelance online in the afternoons, so I know a bit about buying small electronics. That night, when I went upstairs, I lay next to Ethan, my mind spinning with thoughts of shattered oil bottles, broken glass, and subtle accusations. He lay still, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. I suddenly asked, Ethan, do you think I've been doing too many wrong things in the kitchen lately? He turned, slightly startled. What do you mean? It's just, everything that goes wrong is suddenly my fault. I find it strange. Ethan was quiet for a long time before saying, I don't know. Mom can be difficult sometimes. Just try not to pay attention. He turned over, loosely putting his arm around me. The hug was distant, not as warm as it had been in our first few years. I lay still, eyes wide open, staring into the darkness. In the silence, I called Rex's name in my head. Somehow, I believed that if he were a person, he would tell me, something is wrong and you are not crazy. The truth on screen. The next day, on my way to my appointment, I stopped at an electronics store. Within minutes, I bought a tiny, discreet security camera that connected to my phone. The salesman briefly explained the setup. I nodded quickly, feeling both nervous and guilty. I never thought I would have to hide a camera in the house I live in. That evening, after everyone went upstairs, I stayed in the kitchen longer than usual. I waited for the sounds of doors closing upstairs, waited for the hallway lights to dim. It was just me, Rex, and the whirring of the dishwasher. Come here, Rex, I whispered. He walked over, tilting his head at the small box in my hand. I tucked the camera behind some tall spice jars in the corner by the fridge, a spot no one usually noticed. I angled the lens towards the counter area between the fridge and the stone countertop, the place where most of the accidents occurred. I pulled out my phone and adjusted the angle. On the screen, the view was clear. I could see the fridge, most of the countertop, and the pathway between the kitchen and the dining area. I looked at Rex. "Is this okay, Rex?" I whispered, feeling like I was asking an accomplice. He wagged his tail gently, then lay down, his eyes still fixed on the camera's location. I turned off all the kitchen lights, leaving only the faint nightlight. In my heart, there was a mix of fear and anticipation. I was waiting for the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The first day, the camera recorded nothing unusual, just me cooking, Rex pacing, Victoria coming in for water, Chloe grabbing a snack, Ethan stopping by for a beer. Everything was normal. I let out a breath, half relieved, half confused. Did I really overthink this? The second day, the camera recorded Victoria opening the cabinet, almost dropping a wine glass, but she quickly caught it, gave a subtle sneer, and put it back on the shelf. Nothing incriminating. But on the third day, while I was eating lunch alone at the salon's break room, I opened the camera app to check, and my heart skipped a beat. In the frame, Chloe clearly walked into the kitchen. Only my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were home, as I was working and Ethan was at the office. Chloe opened the fridge and took out a large glass container of marinated meat. She placed it right near the edge of the counter, slightly hanging over, a dangerously precarious position. Then she turned around and opened a drawer to take out a dishcloth. She looked at the container one more time, a very faint smirk playing on her lips. Then she gently pushed the edge of the container with her elbow. The glass container crashed to the floor, shattering instantly. Meat flew everywhere. The sound was deafening, even through my phone speaker. Chloe flinched, but it was a staged flinch. She covered her mouth, her eyes wide, but only a few seconds later, as she stepped out of the frame, I saw her shoulders subtly shaking, not from fear, but from laughter. But that wasn't all. She returned, picked up a clean piece of the meat, walked to the apron hook, grabbed the exact apron I usually wear, and subtly smeared the meat on the fabric, leaving a grease stain. Then she hung it back up exactly as it was. When Victoria walked into the kitchen, Chloe was standing in the middle of the mess, her face mournful. "Mom, the meat dish fell. Olivia must have accidentally knocked it over when she was grabbing something from the fridge earlier." I sat frozen in my chair. The voices in the video were drowned out by the pounding of my own heart. I rewound and rewatched, looking at every movement. The way Chloe pushed the container, the way she smeared the meat on the apron, the way she fabricated the story. Now I understood why Rex was always so tense when I entered the kitchen. He had seen this happen, day after day. He growled, he barked, but no one understood what he was saying. I burst into tears, right there in the small break room. A colleague saw my red eyes and asked, "Olivia, you okay?" I shook my head, unable to explain, only managing to say, "Just family stuff. Family stuff." Two words that sounded light, but felt like a boulder on my chest. The confrontation. That evening, I came home, my hands still shaking. My whole body felt tight. I wanted to rush in and tell them everything, but I was terrified that no one would believe me. I ate dinner without tasting anything. I barely registered what Victoria said, or what Chloe laughed at. Only Rex noticed the difference in me. He stayed close to my heels all evening. When I was doing the dishes, he lay down and blocked the exit of the kitchen, as if saying, "Tonight, things will be different." When everyone went upstairs, I called Ethan down. "Could you come down to the kitchen with me for a minute?" He looked surprised but followed. Rex trotted quietly behind him. I opened my phone, went into the app, and pressed play on the saved video. I didn't say a word. I just handed the screen to Ethan. He watched. His eyes slowly widened. The scene of Chloe pushing the container. The scene of the container shattering. The scene of her smearing the meat on my apron. The scene of her building the false narrative in front of his mother. Ethan swallowed hard. He rewound it several times, as if disbelieving what he had just seen. "Oh my God," he muttered. "Chloe?" I didn't cry or scream. Perhaps I had shed all my tears at lunchtime. Now, I was only a thin layer of ice, so cold that I trembled even while sitting still. "Do you know why I set up the camera?" I asked, my voice steady. "Because I'm tired. I'm tired of everything broken becoming my fault. I step into the kitchen like I'm stepping into a courtroom. Only I don't get to speak. I only get to hear the judgment." Ethan gripped the phone tightly. He looked at Rex. The dog stood beside me, his eyes looking straight into Ethan's, as if saying, "Now you see it. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Ethan sighed. "I did tell you, but every time I said something, everyone told me I was too sensitive, too defensive. One time, your mother even said I was not adapting to the family culture." "What was I supposed to do, Ethan?" I asked, looking at the clean sink. Ethan was silent. After a long pause, he finally said, "I'll talk to Mom and Chloe tomorrow. This can't continue." The air clears. The next day, the atmosphere in the house was thick with tension. Victoria sensed something was wrong because Ethan rarely called for a family meeting. He asked everyone to sit down in the living room. I was present, but I chose to sit on a small armchair near Rex. I felt like without him by my side, I would be too shaky to speak. Victoria sat on a single sofa, her back straight, her lips pressed into a thin line. Chloe sat next to her, still scrolling on her phone, acting nonchalant. Ethan took a deep breath, then turned to me. "Show Mom and Chloe the video." I opened the video. This time, on the large living room TV screen, every detail was magnified. Every push, every smirk, every glance. It was undeniable. Chloe's face went white. She jumped up. What is this? Why is there a camera in the kitchen? Did you spy on me?" She turned on me, her voice rising. Victoria also went on the offensive. "Olivia, setting up a camera in the house without telling anyone is an invasion of privacy." I looked straight into her eyes. For the first time in 7 years, I didn't lower my gaze. If I hadn't recorded it, how long would these accidents have continued? How many more times would I have to stand in the kitchen and listen to your insinuations? If you had nothing to hide, the camera wouldn't have recorded anything. Ethan cut in, his voice sharp. "Mom, Chloe, there is no way to explain the scene in that video. From today, I don't want to hear another word about Olivia being clumsy or breaking things." Chloe still tried to salvage it. I was just kidding. I didn't mean to make you look bad. Mom just says things playfully." I laughed coldly. A joke that makes someone look bad in front of the whole family? A joke that makes me afraid every time I walk into the kitchen? A joke that turned me into the clumsy daughter-in-law in everyone's eyes? If this is your idea of a joke, you succeeded. Rex stood up and walked to the middle of the room. He didn't bark, he just stood there, his ears perked, looking at each person. Ethan bent down and stroked his back, seemingly seeking calm. Victoria sighed. It was the first time I saw her eyes waver. "Fine. Since you have evidence like this, I can't deny it. Chloe, apologize to your sister-in-law." Chloe's mouth fell open. "Mom!" "Right now," Victoria's voice went cold. "You went too far." Chloe turned to me, her eyes full of fury, but she managed to force out the words. "I apologize. I just didn't think you would care that much." I looked at her, then at Rex. The dog tilted his head, as if asking me, "Is that enough?" I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel triumphant. I only felt exhausted, so tired that I wanted to leave this house immediately. But I knew this was only the first layer of the mask being stripped away. The German Shepherd's loyalty. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in the kitchen changed completely. Chloe rarely went near the kitchen. Victoria made fewer critical comments. Whenever I was in the kitchen and someone else was there, they were quieter than usual. I still cooked, still washed dishes, and still wiped down the counter as always. But the difference was, I no longer bowed my head. I knew that if another baseless accusation was thrown at me, I would respond. And if necessary, I still had the camera. Rex also seemed relieved. He was no longer tense every time I walked into the kitchen. He went back to lying in the corner by the door, his eyes half closed, occasionally lifting his head to look at me, his tail wagging when I glanced over. One afternoon, after I finished the dishes, I sat down on the floor, leaning against the cabinet, and patted the spot next to me. "Come here, Rex." He slowly walked over, lay down, and rested his head on my lap. I stroked the thick fur on his neck and whispered, "Thank you. Without you, I would still think I was too sensitive, too defensive, too inexperienced. Without you, I would have continued to stay silent and let others dictate the story about me." Rex closed his eyes, breathing deeply, but his ears twitched slightly, as if listening to every word I said. I suddenly realized something. In this house, not everyone is family, but, without a doubt, Rex is my family. A dog that couldn't speak, yet spoke up in the only way he could, growling at injustice, barking at deceit, and standing to shield me every time someone tried to tear me down. People say dogs are loyal to their owners, but for me, Rex was more than loyal. He was the witness. He was the living camera who saw what the humans tried to hide. And with the story of the camera in the kitchen, he helped me do one important thing: stand up and defend myself for the first time after 7 years as a daughter-in-law.